The wrong dog to mess with. The sun was setting over a small suburban town, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The streets were alive with the usual evening bustle, neighbors chatting, kids riding bikes, and dog owners walking their pets. Among them was little Emily Carter, a 10-year-old girl with pigtails and an infectious giggle, walking her beloved German Shepherd, Titan. Titan wasn't just any dog. He was a retired K-9 service dog, once part of the city's elite police K-9 unit. Emily's father, Officer Mike Carter, had been Titan's handler, and when the dog reached retirement, he had brought him home to be part of the family. Titan was well-trained, highly intelligent, and fiercely loyal, especially to Emily. As Emily walked Titan along the sidewalk, a group of bikers roared down the street. They weren't part of any notorious gang, just a bunch of young men trying too hard to look tough. Among them was Jason, a reckless and cocky rider who always looked for a laugh, even at someone else's expense. Spotting Emily and Titan, Jason smirked and veered his bike closer. He lifted his boot and, with a laugh, lightly kicked Titan's side as he sped past. "Oops, didn't see your mutt there, kid," Jason hollered, chuckling. The laughter from his friends was cut short when Titan immediately switched into action. The retired K-9 didn't hesitate. Years of training kicked in instantly. With a deep, menacing growl, Titan lunged forward with a burst of speed, ripping the leash from Emily's small hands. Before Jason could react, the powerful German Shepherd clamped his jaws around his boot and yanked, causing the biker to lose control. Jason and his motorcycle tumbled onto the pavement with a sickening screech of metal against asphalt. He groaned, stunned, as Titan circled him, ears pinned back, teeth bared, a low, warning growl rumbling in his throat. Within seconds, Officer Mike Carter, who had been nearby, rushed to the scene. Seeing his former partner in full K-9 mode, he whistled sharply. "Titan, stand down." Like a well-oiled machine, Titan obeyed immediately, backing away but keeping his sharp eyes locked on the stunned biker. Mike walked up to Jason, who was nursing his bruised leg and shredded jeans. "You just kicked a trained K-9 service dog, son," Mike said, shaking his head. "Bad move." Jason's face paled as he realized the gravity of his mistake. The crowd that had gathered burst into applause and laughter. "Serves you right, jerk," a bystander called out. Emily ran up and hugged Titan, who nuzzled her protectively. "Good boy, Titan," she whispered, her small hands ruffling his fur. Officer Carter smirked at Jason. "You're lucky Titan went easy on you. Next time, don't mess with a dog you don't know." Jason, still shaken, scrambled to his feet, muttered a half-hearted apology, and limped away, much to the amusement of his biker buddies, who had already taken out their phones to record his humiliation. As for Titan, he strutted back home with Emily, his tail wagging, knowing he had once again done his job, protecting those he loved. Jason limped toward his bike, wincing with every step. His pride was bruised worse than his leg. The laughter of his so-called friends stung almost as much as Titan's takedown. He turned to glare at Officer Carter, who stood tall with his arms crossed, and then at Emily, who clung to Titan's thick fur, her eyes filled with both fear and defiance. "This is ridiculous," Jason grumbled. "It was just a joke." Mike's expression hardened. "A joke? Kicking a defenseless animal is never a joke." He took a step forward, especially when that animal is a trained K-9. Jason's face twisted with anger and embarrassment. "Yeah? Well, he's not a cop anymore, is he?" He shot back, rubbing his leg. "He's just a pet now." Mike's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, an authoritative voice cut through the murmuring crowd. "Not so fast." Jason turned to see another police officer approaching, Sergeant David Monroe, the head of the K-9 unit. He had witnessed the entire incident while patrolling the area. "You just assaulted a trained K-9, Monroe stated, stopping beside Mike. "Even in retirement, Titan is still recognized as a service animal under the law." He pointed at Jason's scratched-up bike. "And from what I see, reckless endangerment might be on the table too." Jason's eyes widened. "Wait, what? You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," Monroe said, pulling out his notepad. "What you did isn't just some prank. In some states, harming a police K-9 is a felony. You're lucky Titan wasn't injured, or you'd be looking at some real consequences." Jason looked around, realizing that the entire crowd was still watching, phones recording. His friends were no longer laughing but whispering among themselves, some even shaking their heads in disappointment. Feeling the pressure, Jason let out an exasperated sigh. Look, I didn't mean to hurt the dog, all right? He swallowed his pride and turned to Emily. Kid, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Emily studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod but stayed silent. Titan, however, remained locked onto Jason, as if assessing whether he was truly sorry. Mike finally spoke up. Good, but an apology isn't enough. You need to learn respect, not just for dogs, but for people, too. He glanced at Monroe. What do you think? Community service? Monroe smirked. That's exactly what I was thinking. Jason groaned. Come on, man. You can either work off this mess by volunteering at the local animal shelter for a month, Monroe said firmly, or we can take this downtown and let a judge decide. Jason muttered a curse under his breath, but saw no other way out. Fine, whatever. Emily, finally speaking up, crossed her arms. Maybe then you'll learn to be nice to animals. Jason sighed, nodding reluctantly. Yeah, maybe. Mike gave Titan a pat on the head. Good work, partner, he said with a small smile. Titan wagged his tail, as if he knew justice had been served. As the crowd dispersed and Jason sulked off, Emily kneeled beside Titan, wrapping her arms around him. You're the best dog ever. Titan licked her cheek, his mission accomplished. And from that day on, Jason never messed with another dog again. Jason wasn't thrilled about spending his afternoons cleaning up after dogs at the Maplewood Animal Shelter, but he knew it was better than facing charges. For the first few days, he just went through the motions, mopping floors, refilling water bowls, and avoiding eye contact with the shelter staff. But everything changed when he met Max. Max was a scrappy-looking German shepherd mix with scars on his ears and a cautious look in his eyes. Unlike the other dogs who wagged their tails at the sight of people, Max kept his distance, watching Jason with the same distrust that Jason had for the whole situation. One afternoon, as Jason was cleaning out the kennels, he overheard Sarah, the shelter's manager, talking to a volunteer. Max has been here for 6 months now. He's been through a lot. If we don't find a home for him soon, well, we might have to make a tough decision. Jason frowned. Wait, you mean? Sarah sighed. He's not aggressive, just scared. But most people want a friendly, happy dog. Max needs patience, and we're running out of time. Jason looked at Max, who was curled up in the corner of his kennel, pretending not to listen. That night, Jason couldn't shake the thought of Max being put down. He barely slept, replaying the words over and over. Tough decision. The next day, Jason did something different. Instead of just doing his chores, he sat outside Max's kennel. He didn't try to pet him or force him to come closer. He just sat. For the first few days, Max ignored him. Then, on the 4th day, something changed. Jason was sitting cross-legged on the floor when he felt a soft nudge against his arm. He turned his head slowly. Max was standing beside him, sniffing his jacket cautiously. Jason smiled for the first time since he got there. Hey, buddy. Max's tail gave a small, hesitant wag. From that moment on, Jason's attitude shifted. He didn't just clean the shelter, he wanted to be there. He walked Max, played fetch with him, and even started helping with training sessions. A few weeks later, Sarah pulled him aside. I've never seen Max open up to anyone like this, she said. Have you ever thought about adopting? Jason blinked. Him? Owning a dog? The idea had never crossed his mind. But looking over at Max, now trotting happily beside him, ears perked up, it didn't seem so crazy. A week later, Jason signed the adoption papers. When Emily and Officer Carter heard the news, they were surprised, but in a good way. You really adopted a dog? Emily asked, wide-eyed. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, well, turns out, dogs aren't so bad. Mike smirked. I'd say that's quite the change from the guy who kicked a K9 a month ago. Jason chuckled, looking down at Max. Yeah, I guess I had a lot to learn. Emily grinned. Titan will be happy. Now he has a new friend. As Jason walked away, Max trotting proudly beside him, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Pride. Purpose. A fresh start. He had learned his lesson, not just about respecting animals, but about himself. And this time, he wasn't the guy who kicked dogs. He was the guy who saved one.